Yes. Shri Suresh Prabhu.
Sir, so this bill seeks to amend the Electricity Act 2003, which I had a good fortune of introducing that bill in the Parliament as a Minister of Power in the previous Atal Bihari Vajpayee government. So this act the bill was drafted with a lot of consultations, with a lot of deliberations, with a lot of thought to address some of the crucial problems that the country is facing in the power sector. Of course, any act, any law that is passed by the Parliament can always be reviewed and can be changed and amended. If you can amend the Constitution, you can also amend the law. But when the UPA government came to power, they had said in the National Common Minimum Program that the Electricity Act 2003 is going to be reviewed. It sent a lot of jitters in the private sector. My good friend Mr. K.S. Rao was saying that we need private participation in power sector. The act was basically designed, amongst other things, to address that concern as well. And when the government said that they are going to review the act, there was a lot of nervousness in the private sector, thinking that the amendment would mean that we are going to roll back some of the very progressive provisions in the law. So I first of all would like to be assured from the Honourable Minister that now can we say that the review as was envisaged under the UPA's Common Minimum Program is complete? Otherwise, you can still think that that uncertainty that was always hanging in the minds of the investor should disappear, and we should say yes, the review is complete. Now the act as amended now by the Parliament, when the Parliament will amend it, is a finality to the Electricity Act 2003. So this is something which I think we should try to finally tell the country. So there are several provisions in the law, which there are 4 or 5 major amendments. One deals with rural electrification. It is true that the section 6 of the Act talks about appropriate government, which will actually be responsible for electrification. It is clause the section 6 of the Electricity Act 2003. But sir, if you know by the spirit of it, the central government has always been supporting states to do rural electrification through budgetary provisions, through instruments like Rural Electrification Corporation. And in fact, I recall as a minister, we used to have constantly meetings with the state chief ministers, encouraging them to avail more resources from the central government and do electrification. But it's good if we are going to now also provide resources and provide maybe grants, if not even loans, to the states to go for electrification is a good thing. But while doing that, you must be clear about few things. Number one, so today, the peak level shortage as well as the energy shortage is at an astounding figure. We are all concerned about it. And therefore, if you provide more electricity, give more electricity to more consumers, it will only mean that from the limited electricity that is available to us, which is causing, because of mismatch of demand and supply, this type of shortages should not result into more shortages. So that is what is very important, that we should really take care of that. And in the process of doing that, if more number of people are going to draw electricity from availably scarce resources, it should not even affect quality of electricity. So we have seen in India, in addition to availability, quality of electricity is a very fundamental issue. Because normally it should be 49.99 STZ, as a result of which the consumers can be assured that this is the quality I am going to get, and therefore I can run my electrical gadgets, my electrical system on that frequency, on that STZ. But today, if we provide more electricity to consumer without augmenting capacity, if you can do that simultaneously, very good. But if you don't do that, the quality of electricity will really suffer, and I would request the minister to take note of this. Sir, India probably is the only country in the world which has got voltage stabilizers at a consumer's end. Providing stability to voltage, providing stability to the grid is the responsibility of the grid supplier, of the manager of the grid. So therefore, it is additional cost that we are putting on the consumers to provide this. But it is not something which is, as not Mr. Shinde has created this problem, it's over a period of time problem. But my concern is But when we are doing electrification of this magnitude, we should be very clear that quality of electricity should not suffer, and in the process, we should not put more burden on already overburdened infrastructure. Sir, quality, as I said, is an important issue. The other issue is reliability. Because Electricity Act, one of the fundamental foundation of Electricity Act was on three fundamental things: quality, reliability, and affordability. So reliability is also important because now in several states, including the home state of the Honorable Minister as well as my home state, we are not getting electricity for 18 hours. And sometimes, because when the load shedding cycle changes, sometimes it extends to more than 24 hours. Because if it changes, then you start another cycle and it can really affect that much. So reliability is an important issue, and the most important issue is affordability. I think these are very important issue because in case of Enron, which now becomes Ratnagiri Power Company, even that particular time when the Honorable Minister was the Chief Minister of Maharashtra, he wanted to provide that electricity, but because of the high cost of that electricity that was generated from Enron, Maharashtra Electricity Board could not buy that electricity. So affordability of electricity is also an important consideration, and therefore I think while framing a policy, we should be very clear, and therefore rural electrification, which is amending the clause, now trying to amend the section 6 of this Electricity Act 2003, while welcoming that, I would like to caution the Minister that we should definitely take into consideration these three important aspects. So the other issue relates to cross subsidies. Sir, this, in my opinion, was deliberated for a long time. So look at the historical situation. So industry is actually paying for all other, they are actually paying more, and therefore the agriculture is not paying at all, or somebody else may be paying less. But the situation that we thought was that in India, we definitely need subsidies. Because electricity cannot be purchased by everybody at market price. We definitely need subsidy. There is no question about it. Indian poor cannot afford to buy electricity, and then this is the provision of electricity directly related to removal of poverty, improving quality of standards of living of the people. Therefore, electricity is important. But we thought that how we should provide subsidy. In fact, in the Electricity Act, there is a specific provision to give subsidy, which was not in the earlier act. We deliberately provided it, and in what form? We said that you must give subsidy, but a subsidy must be given by the state government, which wants to give subsidy, to the utility by a transfer amount which is equivalent to the difference between the tariff that is fixed by the regulator and the amount of subsidy you want to give, you must give it. So the most transparent way of giving subsidy. So as a result of which, poor can get power at subsidized rate. At the same time, the distortion that goes into the system will disappear. So today, by making amendment like this, what are we saying? We are saying that the same regime of crop subsidization which was existing before is going to come back. So the consumer will not get it, because we have always seen that industry, which is going to supposed to pay higher charges for electricity because of cost subsidization, will go in for captive generation because the cost is high. So that you will lose good industrial consumers, and in the process, the ability of the industry to cross subsidize will also get down, and who will suffer? Again, the poor will suffer. The subsidy will not reach the target group, and therefore the distortion will again come back. So my request is this type of provision, which will not be really helping the cause for which we are trying to introduce this amendment. If the idea is to help the poor, you can do it as it has been provided in the Electricity Act by transfer of subsidy amount from the state government to the state electricity boards or whoever is a utility in a transparent and in a very, very clear manner. So I think this is an important issue which we are trying to now bring in through this cross subsidy issue. But I understand if you why probably you are doing it, but my personal request will be look at this issue, because this is something which will again create some sort of problem. And as you know, today's situation, the workers who work in manufacturing sector, we want more and more blue-collar workers to be created, because the manufacturing in India is only 23% of the GDP. Unless it becomes like China, 52% of the GDP, we will never be able to call ourselves as a new world power. We cannot be world power only with services, which is more than 60% of the economy. So we want more manufacturing, and if you have more manufacturing, the manufacturing cannot survive or thrive unless the cost that goes into manufacturing are at international level, because now it's a globalized world. The worker who is working in Calcutta or in Mumbai or in Hyderabad has to compete with the product that he manufactures with the producers in US, in China, in other places. So input cost is important. If manufacturing cost is going to go up by more electricity, we will also lose a competitiveness that India has in manufacturing. So that is my first question. So second question, as a third amendment, relates to theft of electricity, which I welcome. Sir, theft is, we have to arrest it because, sir, when I was a power minister, we had calculated the amount of money that is involved in theft was 20,000 crores. And that was a very conservative estimate. I don't know what is the amount today. But imagine, sir, so much of money we are all losing as a country. And 20,000 crore, if you lose every year, you can never be commercially viable. And because you are not commercially viable, we are not able to add capacity. So these are related to one another. So arresting theft is a very important issue. But while doing that, I would like to also request, this amendment is welcome. You are making it cognizable offence. Very good. It is required. It is good. But along with that, my request will be to also look at 2-3 other parallel measures which are required. One is a managerial measure, which he was pointing out. Sir, theft is an issue which is related to lack of accountability at a level at which the power is supplied to the consumer. Sir, if you can make a provision whereby every distribution transformer becomes a profit center and also a cost center in which we can actually fix responsibility. If the power that has come into that distribution transformer, to the extent to which it is supplied to the consumer, if you can actually identify responsibility and say that this is what you got it, you must account for it. So the person who runs the distribution transformer is made accountable, the theft will be greatly reduced. So that is something which you must do. And there is a parallel to this. In telecommunication sector, the thefts have gone down because of certain measures of this type.
Yes.
The second measure, sir, I am just only two.
Please.
Please, sir. Sir, the other measure is technological.
Because there are a lot of number of speakers. Yes, we continue. You finish it? Yes.
Sir, technological.
Even without your interruption, I will.
Sir, other issue technological. Sir, there is one Mr. Tata Rao from Andhra Pradesh, who is one of the most renowned and celebrated power engineer. He used to always say that if you have high transmission distribution network, the amount of theft that are carried out can be greatly reduced. So it's a technological solution which you try to use wherever possible. Not everywhere it is possible, but this again we must try to use along with the type of responsibility that I was talking about. Sir, agriculture, for example, if you can have feeders only supplying to the agriculture users, that itself will be greatly helped. Some of the states are doing it. We are trying to do it under the Accelerated Power and Reform Development Program with the government at launch, and we want to go ahead with that. But this is something, along with the theft, I am saying, we must try to make sure that these parallel measures are taken along with the legal provision, which are welcome. Without that, probably will not be able to succeed, because just by having law, so probably by law, then we'll have to probably put hundreds and thousands of people every day in the jail only for this, so probably the police will have no other work to do. So therefore, we must also introduce some of the other provisions that are required. So other provision which talks about is amending the Section 9 of the Electricity Act for captive generation. Sir, in fact, the central government has always been saying that captive, we are actually made it by law. In fact, the Section 9 is very clear that captive generation is now totally delicensed. Anybody can put up a captive power plant. But so unfortunately, some of the state governments are not supplying electricity to the consumers, at the same time not allowing anybody else to start creating more capacity. So it's a dog in the manger policy, not allowing others as well as not providing to themselves. So this is something which is a very serious issue. I think probably you are doing it because of the central of the Supreme Court judgment. But so my request will be, you must, if require, more stringent amendment, whereby states should not be able to flout the spirit of this amendment. Otherwise, it is really counterproductive. Sir, we had done this very deliberately. In fact, now in India, any generation is delicensed except hydro in certain cases. But otherwise, generation is delicensed. Captive capacity is welcome because we have huge power shortages. But if the state government start charging, in some state governments are charging excise duty for generating electricity in the compound of the manufacturer. So this is something which is highly objectionable. And I think therefore, I would request the minister to make sure that the answer to this absolute last point, I am talking about open access. Sir, in fact, this is a very important issue. In telecom, the open access has brought down the tariffs, has improved the quality, and open access is a prerequisite for competition. Now, in this case, open access, we have said in the Electricity Act, only more than 1 megawatt to begin with, as was done in UK also. So it was done very deliberately. I think we should try to find out how soon we can introduce open access. In fact, I would request you that all the central government funding to the states should be now linked to this. If you can link it to this, make sure that the states will have more and more open access. Probably this will also result into more capacity to be created at the generation end, because the generator should not only ask for a PPA with the state electricity board. He should try to sell electricity directly to the consumer, whereby there will be more competition will come, more capacity can be created, more bankability for the projects can be established. And if you want to do that, then you must introduce open access in a very big way, and I would request you to do that also. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.